Hey, good afternoon. Kurt Morrow here. Today's lesson is going to be over 3 modes of the melodic minor scale. Melodic minor, super Locrian, and Lydian Dominant. We're going to talk about each scale briefly. We're going to do an exercise briefly over in sort of a, I want to call it a practical sense. I call it a practical sense because if you turn the metronome on and play the 9 chords in a row without stopping, that's an exercise. It's like if you showed up at a gig and they, you call the tune, you're not going to be able to stop in the middle of the tune and figure out what scale you want to play. That's not how you do it, you know that. Anyway, so the first mode is melodic minor. So, basically the melodic minor scale. I think of the melodic minor scale like a major scale with a lowered third. That's how I conceive that scale. We talk about, in jazz theory, we talk about different ways to conceive that using Dan Hearle's book, The Jazz Language, and his book, Scales for Jazz Improvisation. We discuss other ways that you can figure out how to get there, but I think the easiest way is to think about the major scale and lower the third, and you have, here's G melodic minor. Okay, if it was C melodic minor, I should be going up to the 9th and back down, so if I did that, C, super Locrian, so that's melodic minor, first mode. Super Locrian is the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale, so it's built off the 7th degree. There's a number of ways to conceive that. This scale has many names, all of which are really correct and commonly used. It is called the altered dominant scale. The Pomeroy scale, I've never heard that, or the Ravel scale, I haven't heard that either, but and the diminished whole tone scale. However, the classical name is the super Locrian scale. It is constructed of 5 whole steps and 2 half steps. The half steps occur between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 of the scale. There are 2 ways to conceive this particular scale: a Locrian scale with a lowered 4th scale step. So if you know your modes of the major scale, Locrian is the 7th mode of the major scale, so play that and also lower the 4th. Or a scale which has the same tones as a melodic minor scale built on the note a half step above. C super Locrian is the same as D flat melodic minor. So start on a C and then play D flat melodic minor. If it's a pick another Locrian or super Locrian scale like G. So start on a G but play A flat melodic minor. You see how that's happening? If you're playing B flat super Locrian, just start on B flat and then after that play B melodic minor. The super Locrian scale is used with the dominant family chords, which have both an altered 5th and an altered 9th present in any combination. Flat 5, flat 9, flat 5, sharp 9, sharp 5, flat 9, and sharp 5, sharp 9. The chord may include both altered 5ths and both altered 9ths, since all these alterations occur as scale tones in the super Locrian scale. If the dominant chord is lacking either an altered 5th or an altered 9th, a whole tone or diminished scale may be a better choice. This should be apparent due to the altered nature of the scale. A super Locrian scale has the same tones as Lydian flat 7, built on the note located a tritone above or below. This information is useful in improvising on progressions which involve tritone substitutions of dominant chords. Okay, so that's the explanation straight out of the Dan Hearle's book. And so it goes like this. I'll play a couple of them. C super Locrian. D flat. D. And so on and so forth. Go through all 12 keys and practice those. The Lydian Dominant Scale. Not Lydian Augmented, but Lydian. The Lydian Flat 7 is sometimes called the Lydian Dominant Scale. It is constructed of 5 whole steps and 2 half steps. The half steps occur between 4 and 5 and steps 6 and 7. So C, Lydian Flat 7, or Lydian Dominant. There are 3 ways of conceiving the Lydian Flat 7 scale. A Lydian scale with a lowered 7th scale step, a Mixolydian scale with a raised 4th scale step, a scale which has the same tone as Melodic Minor Scale, built on the note a perfect 4th below. C Lydian Flat 7 is the same as G Melodic Minor. So if you know your Melodic Minor scales, go up a 4th and start there. You might think, you know, G Melodic Minor, but you're starting on a C. That's what that means. Let's see. The Lydian Flat 7 scale is used with dominant family chords which are unaltered with the exception of the sharp 11, which may or may not be present. By raising the 4th of the Mixolydian mode to create this scale, the dissonance of the unaltered 4th disappears. Read that again. By raising the 4th of the Mixolydian mode to create this scale, because I think of Mixolydian like a major scale with a flat 7. That's pretty simple. Major scale, flat 7. If you should, by now you should know your major scales. So everything to me is an alteration of the major scale to create almost any scale, if not all of them. That's the easiest way for me to conceive of them. So by raising the 4th of a Mixolydian scale, so here's like C Mixolydian. Here's C Lydian Dominant. Sharp 4. Okay? Therefore, any tone in the scale may be emphasized without fear of it sounding like a wrong note. Speaking of wrong notes, I want to say a quick anecdote here, not even an anecdote, but I used to have, well, Frank Mantooth, rest in peace. He was such a great composer and pianist, and he was such a great educator. Frank told me once on a gig or in a class or whatever, he said, Kurt, you know, if you're on a wrong note, 99% of the time you're a half step away from the right note. So just go one way or the other. And that kind of has resonated with me for many years. But rest in peace, Frank, you were amazing. When the sharp 11 is present in a dominant chord, the Lydian Flat 7 is definitely a preferable choice over the Mixolydian scale. This is because the unaltered 4th of the Mixolydian mode would cause a dissonant clash with the sharp 11. So if you've arranged a tune, or you know for sure that this cat on piano is that's how he voices those kinds of chords, and the sharp 11 is gonna be in there, or you hear it, you should think Lydian Dominant or Lydian Flat 7. A Lydian Flat 7 scale has the same tones as a super Locrian scale, built on the note located a tritone above or below. This information is useful in improvising on progressions which involve tritone substitutions of dominant chords. Okay, so that explains the Lydian Dominant scale. Now we get back to our, so we've talked about Mixolydian, we've talked about super Locrian, and we've talked about Lydian Dominant. I didn't go into a great explanation about Melodic Minor, but you can research that on your own. I mean, Melodic Minor. you should know all forms of the minor scale anyway: melodic, harmonic, and natural minor. Okay, so what we do is we've constructed through this great booklet by a great educator, friend of mine, Mike Steinel, retired from University of North Texas, his supplemental book. He writes out a line of chords for C instruments, B flat instruments, and E flat instruments. And then there's like 9 chords there, and you set your metronome on 100 and play eighth notes, and you just play the appropriate scale as the chord is coming up. It's a good practice method. And this, like G minor major 7, G7 plus 9 sharp 5, plus 9 plus 5, G7 plus 11, and then 3 D flat chords of the same qualities and 3 E chords. And then there's like 4 lines, and each line is different. It's a great way. Now, if you check this video out that I'm making about this, remember, if you get this exercise down, or you leave comments below and you say, I'd like to have the PDF of that, I'm happy to share it with you. You can also substitute those for any other scales, you know, like pick 3 other scales and practice those this way, and write up some random chords and then turn the metronome on and practice those. So anyway, it's a great way to do it. I'll just do a little bit of it so you can kind of see how it goes. D flat. Let's check out D flat. D flat sharp 11, D flat 7. E minor major 7. Or, let's see. Now E7 sharp 9, sharp 5. E7 sharp 11. Sorry. Right, tritone. So you set your metronome up to 100 or whatever your tempo you're comfortable with, and you go from there. Okay, so basically that's the exercise. It's playing assignment number 2 in this book, and those are the scales, and you just practice them in all 12 keys, and then you randomly choose 3 chord types: minor major 7 plus dominant 7 plus 5 plus 9, dominant 7 plus 11, and then 3, 6, 9, or you can do however many you want if you're making up your own practice sheet. But the thing is, get it to where you're not stopping. Because if you were in a grading situation, the way Mike handled it in class is every time you hesitated, that was a check mark. You know, that was like a mistake. So, you know, you kind of want to. So practice it slow. Slow practice is always the better way. But when you start getting these patterns down, when you start getting them down, you really, it's not bad at all. So C, super Locrian, C, C sharp, D sharp, E, and then F sharp, G sharp, B flat, C. And then you can play those same patterns around the bass, and so every time you see one of those. Now remember, once you have all this stuff together and you're kind of like blowing through these exercises and they just become a warm-up for you before you go on to something else, just remember when you see these chords, you don't have to play the scale like a scale. You can play ideas using those notes. C, C sharp, D sharp, E. C, C sharp. You know, come up with ideas and you know, make them melodic, make them creative. And also listen to guys like Wayne Shorter and Keith Jarrett and Chick Corea. These scales are they're playing all over the place. Transcribe something and pick it out, you know, and go, oh wow, there it is, Lydian Dominant, or Lydian flat 7, or there it is, there's Super Locrian right there, minus a couple of scale degrees. You know, that's another way to get to know these scales. But I like a term that Rufus Reid has used in the past about other instruments like piano. You know, he says, you know, you should get friendly with the piano. That means get to know it enough to be able to pick stuff out on it or play chord voicings. Get friendly with these scales on your bass so that you have more in your toolbox for improvisational purposes, you know. And they need to come like that. They need to come on the fly. I know how it works with me. When I'm looking at stuff like this and I'm practicing like just those 3 scales for, you know, a few weeks at a time, day in and day out, or every other day, or whatever my schedule allows me to do, then I start to get the sound in my head. And then when I'm looking at tunes, or if somebody calls a tune, or if I'm, you know, have a tune memorized, but I know that there's a altered dominant chord in there, like in this random version of, almost stock version of There'll Never Be Another You, down here there's C7 plus 9. I could use that Locrian scale on that. I might not play the sharp 5, but if I do, I'm not going to stay on it real long. Anyway, C7 plus 9, D7 plus 9, G7 plus 9, D7 plus 4, Lydian flat 7 right there. The way this particular one was written. So that's what you do. You find them and you use them. And you practice them in the practice room with stuff like this, and then you move on. All right, and if you have any questions, leave comments down below. And let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, I don't know. I appreciate everybody. Oh, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. I know everybody says that because I guess that's the world we live in now. I don't have a lot of followers, but I have some, and excuse me, the more followers I have and the more people that like what I put up, I don't know, I guess YouTube starts paying you. I don't know how any of that works and don't really care. But anyway, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, that's our lesson today on modes of the major scale, and we chose 3 of them: Melodic Minor, Super Locrian, and Lydian Dominant. All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.